Welcome back to my channel, everybody, where I try and find the silver linings in even the worst of films. Today, while I was at work at noon, New York time, TikTok decided to host this event where Denis Villeneuve came out and introduced some of the cast for Dune Part 3, where they talked about the movie a little bit, and then it all ended with them showing off a trailer. And I stopped short of watching the trailer because, well, on one hand, I want to watch it here with you guys, but on the other hand, there was no way I was going to watch this movie's trailer on TikTok, not in widescreen. That just seems crazy to me. That's going to cut off the sides of one of the most beautiful looking franchises of all time. So even if I wasn't doing this YouTube channel, I still wouldn't have watched it. But anyway, that's besides the point. Look, guys, this is loosely based off of Dune Messiah. Denis Villeneuve did make some changes to the first book with Dune Part 1 and Part 2. For those of you who don't know, Dune Part 1 and Part 2 were just the entirety of the first Dune book broken up into two movies. And I've been a little skeptical with him adapting Dune Messiah because notoriously, I do not like that book. I read it after being enthralled with the first two movies, and I wanted to know where it was going to go from there, and the book Messiah really just let me down. So I am a little nervous. Now, like I said, he did make changes to the first book to make it more of like a blockbuster-y feel for the movies, and I'm really hoping he does that here. But without any further ado, let's get into it and see if it is going to live up to the absolute masterpiece of the second film. Is that Chani or Paul? I think that's Chani. Did he shave? Ah, he shaved the hair.
What if it's a boy?
I would name him Leto. So he would have the wisdom of his grandfather.
War feeds on its
Okay. That's not from the book. That looks badass.
The more I fight, the more our enemies fight back.
Oh, Robert Pattinson. Far cry from Batman.
Protect my family.
This isn't from the book either. You know what? I know what's happening.
How did father do it?
Your father.
Ooh, banger of a line. A lot of war. Is that Timothée Chalamet singing? Duncan! It's one of my favorite characters from the book and the first two movies. Oh, look at that shot. That's epic.
But I must not die. Yet.
Wow. I'm like actually having like heart palpitations watching that. Like I have chills. There's an old saying with James Cameron that goes, never bet on James Cameron, because a lot of people like to shit on his Avatar movies when the trailers first come out, that no one's going to go and see them, and then they always make over $1 billion. And I'm starting to believe that that's the case with Denis Villeneuve, because he has changed a lot in this. Now, like I said before, I actually really hate Dune Messiah. You have the first Dune book that's so epic and amazing, and there's so much drama and science fiction action in it. And then the second book came out, and Frank Herbert didn't want people to look at Paul Atreides as like a hero, and he didn't like that people focused a lot on the war aspect of it and the battle against the Baron, so he wanted to make the Messiah book more of like a political thriller, where most of the book, 98% of the book, is people just in rooms talking and political intrigue and like backstabbing under the table and all these different people that are showing up to where Paul Atreides now resides as king, and how he has trust issues because he knows that some of these people are really there to try try and kill him, and it's about trying to figure out who it is. And there's a lot that goes into it. I'm really compressing it into a very small thing. It's about a lot more than just that, but it really strips out all of the epicness of it. There's not a lot of epic stuff that happens in it, and I don't want to spoil the events of what happens to Paul, but it also ends on a very sour, dour, depressing note. And it was just like they completely about-faced from what everything that made the first one so good, at least in my opinion. So I was worried that they were going to adapt that book to a T, but Denis Villeneuve is clearly taking a lot of creative liberties. The first one being with Chani, because in the book and in the original movie by David Fincher, Chani goes with him to, while he rules as king. But in Denis Villeneuve's version, she decides to stay back with the Fremen and not go with Paul Atreides, and it creates this interesting dynamic between the two of them, because you see her as a warrior multiple times in this trailer, holding a knife like she's about to go into battle, and that never happens in the book. Denis Villeneuve elevated the Chani character, which might take away from Florence Pugh's character, because she has a much bigger role in the book, but I never really liked that character in the book anyway, and as much as I love Florence Pugh's character, I care way more about Paul Atreides and Chani in this, so I'm glad we're focusing more on that. And in the book Messiah starts off after the events of this giant holy war that takes place across the universe, where Paul sends the Fremen to go and pretty much conquer the universe. And you never actually read about it in the book. You read about the fact that it happened, but it's not like Frank Herbert wrote the actual battles for you to envision in your head. Like, it takes place after that. And if it wasn't for the fact that Denis Villeneuve in that interview said that this is the most action-packed out of all of the three movies, I would think that all of those scenes that we saw with Javier Bardem's character at battle were probably the opening segments of the movie, where you're gonna see Paul Atreides' army taking over the galaxy, and then we'd kind of move past that. But the fact that he's saying there's action sprinkled throughout a lot of this means to me that he's adding his own action set pieces to make this movie not feel like such a bore, because really it is. The book is a bore, and say what you will if you're a diehard Frank Herbert fan, if you love the Dune Messiah book, you have to at least agree that that book stripped out all of the excitement out of it that was in the first book. And it seems like Denis is really trying to make this one just as epic as the last two, which is really exciting, especially with the Duncan Idaho character. I don't want to spoil what happens with him and the fact that he's back, but he was one of my favorite characters from the book, and he's so good in this. And if they at least honor what his character arc is in Messiah here, he's the best part of the Messiah book, and I'm so excited to see him back. The second film was my favorite film of the year when that came out. It is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I just think it's such a cinematic powerhouse masterpiece, and I'm so glad that it looks like Denis Villeneuve wanted to deliver something that was equally on par with that. This quickly has risen up the ranks to one of my most anticipated films of this year, and I really hope they stick the landing, because that trailer was absolute fire. That was an incredible trailer. You got what sounds like Timothée Chalamet doing this chant as Paul Atreides. You got these epic battles going on. You got this beautiful color palette and these big, wide, epic landscape shots. I can't wait to see what they do with the Paul Atreides character, and if they're going to follow the events that happens to him in the book, because it is wild, if not controversial, but I'm just so curious to see what he's going to do here, because I almost feel like I'm watching a different thing. Like I'm watching a movie based off of a different book. It doesn't feel like the Messiah book, and a lot of the stuff that happens in Messiah isn't really shown here outside of what the Holy War battles could look like. Robert Pattinson's character, who I don't want to say who he is for the sake of spoilers, and Duncan Idaho. Outside of those three things, everything about this is different, and I am totally here for it. In Denis Villeneuve, I trust. This looks absolutely remarkable. But what do you guys think? Did you like this trailer? Did you read the Messiah book and had the same fears that I had going into this? Let's talk about it in the comments down below, and as always, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time.